so that the masses become slaves. But it all starts with the idea of a few elite people looking down their noses at the rest of humanity.
This early history of the church was violent. And like other kingdoms of its time, the church hierarchy was filled with hidden agendas by groups competing for world power. A new word developed to describe the concealed schemes of this time.
Calling the church a pornocracy is an interesting use of the term. It's not a widely accepted or used term. It literally means government by harlots, by prostitutes, hence the root porno. And it specifically and historically refers to a time in the 10th century, beginning with a fairly inept pope named Sergius III, and a series of popes who ruled by less than moral means. Apparently Sergius I, for example, had a number of competing cardinals killed in order so that he could assume the papal throne. The term got applied then because of these very powerful women, members of the aristocratic noble families of Rome, who kind of held the strings on the papacy and determined who would be pope at any given point, hence the term applied then.
Much of this sordid history and internal secret battles is said to be sealed away in this building, 100 yards behind the Great Basilica on the Vatican grounds, the Archives. This sprawling complex is said to house the greatest collection of sacred books and folios in the world. Some have not been seen for centuries.
The Vatican libraries extend for approximately 50 miles of books. The collection is enormous.
I've been asked what's in the secret Vatican archives, and I must say, I don't know, because they're secret, and they have been secret for so many centuries.
In Angels and Demons, Robert Langdon manages to steal a historic document from the archives that he thinks will help find the location of a kidnapped cardinal. Could such a theft be committed? Paul Williams is a theologist and one of the very few researchers ever allowed to pass through the Vatican's tight security and examine its archives.
You can't enter with a jacket. You can't enter with an attaché case. You can't even carry a fountain pen. The only thing you can take with you is a graphite pencil and a notepad. When you enter the archives, a cleric will present exactly the document that you've requested. If they've agreed to give you that document, the cleric will remain with you while you study that document. There will be porters and guards behind you, so it would be absolutely impossible to take anything out of that room. Even if you were Harry Houdini, you just can't do it.
Such close attention to security and restricted access raises the question, is the Vatican hiding something in its archives? What secrets can be found on its 50 miles of shelf space?
There are rumored to be some fabulous documents in there about the Second World War, about the Pope's involvement, or rather the Pope's non-involvement in the Holocaust and his failure to speak out against the Holocaust.
Of course, there must be truly secret Vatican archives, because the Church, dozens and dozens of other Gospels, for example, that weren't included in the New Testament, that has stuff in them that would seriously undermine the Church if people knew about it. So presumably there are an awful lot of books that certainly researchers like me would give my eye teeth to see, hidden somewhere in the Vatican.
One of the secrets that is reportedly held here comes right from the pages of Angels and Demons. Suppressed historical documents, including unpublished writings and research by early scientists. Those writings could include materials of Galileo and Copernicus. Both were considered enemies of the Church. Both were linked by Dan Brown to the Illuminati.
When Galileo made his revelation that, hey, the Earth and the Moon and all the planets revolve around the Sun, number one, this was disturbing the orthodoxy of the Roman Church, and two, they probably were afraid that this would lend a lot of support to sun worship, which is one of the oldest, most primitive religions, and one that they were trying desperately to stamp out.
I think it's interesting that within Angels and Demons, it's not made implicit, it's not made clear which one is the angel and which one's the demon. As Dan Brown asserts in his book, even though it's fiction, to claim that Galileo and Bernini were either part of the Illuminati or Freemasons, it's not so far-fetched, I don't think. It's certainly open to possibility. There were so many groups, secret groups, at that time. It was just kind of the height of secret societies throughout Europe between the 1400s to the 1800s.
There's been an age-old war between church and science. It's gone back as far as the foundation of the church itself, and I think this is something that's inevitable when you have a group, a society, like the church, like the Christian church itself, putting down tenets and dogmas and doctrines that they say are absolute, that are immovable, that are truths. And you will also have people challenging those truths.
Did the Vatican's oppression of science and knowledge spur the formation of secret societies? Is the Illuminati one of them?
Like most persecuted and suppressed organizations, the Illuminati probably did go underground.
The Illuminati appeared late in the history of Europe. But where did they really come from? Some historians theorize that the Illuminati evolved out of a once powerful and legendary organization. One that once protected the Pope, but then was destroyed by order of the Pope. The Knights Templar, warrior priests. But were they really eliminated?
The Knights Templar started out as the Order of the Poor Knights of the Temple of Solomon.
The Knights Templar were purportedly to be in possession of the Holy Grail.
It was the year 1000. The Western world believed in the legend of the Holy Grail, a cup thought to hold the blood of Christ and his power. And now, a secret society of warrior monks allegedly found the Holy Grail. Through this legend and the power it conveyed, the Knights Templar became one of the most revered and feared secret societies that ever existed. Authors Stephen Ostrow and Devin Jackson, who have dedicated years of research into the Knights Templar, describe them as early defenders of the Vatican who eventually became its biggest threat.
They were ostensibly serving to free the roads for pilgrims to go to Jerusalem. They took up residence in the Temple of Solomon. They lived in the stables of the Temples of Solomon, and for about 8 years they conducted an excavation.
The Knights Templar were these warrior monks, and what they did was they sometimes served as the guards for the Pope, but what they largely did was that they guarded the route, the pilgrims' route and the crusaders' route on the way down to Jerusalem.
There were only 9 of them for about 9 years, so I don't think they could have done that, at least not very efficiently. They quite clearly had another agenda. They did seem to be looking for something in the Holy Land. They were very into secret knowledge.
Even though they took a vow of poverty, the knights began accumulating more wealth than many rulers of the day. Land, money, shipping. The knights began to finance monarchies as well as the Vatican.
The Knights Templar eventually became kind of a Templar Incorporated. They started the first branch banking, which means you could deposit your gold and silver in England and expect to take it out when you go to Jerusalem, so you wouldn't have to carry it along the highways. So they became the biggest property owner in Europe. At the same time, they owned the biggest fleet.
Their vast wealth and influence made the Templars fearless and intimidating. They bowed to no king or leader, and soon, not even the Pope. Their wealth, however, might not have been their biggest threat. Historian Lynn Picknett believes the Knights may have started a new and competing religion.
Knights Templar were accused of spitting and trampling on the cross in secret ceremonies and of worshipping a bearded, severed head. And they certainly had a great reverence for John the Baptist, overtly. And what was the significance of this? We discovered that the Knights Templar, when they're in the Middle East, met a group that was known as the Church of John of the East. And it was